Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Cloud Games. My name is Richie and joining me this week is the unorthodox rabbi, Mr. Chris.
Hello everyone, nice to be back.
And the other unorthodox rabbi, Mr. Bill Clinton.
Guess who's back? No one's going to follow up? Okay,
I thought you were going to follow up, sorry.
No,
That was of course the voice of Rob you just heard if you're listening to the
Rob is
podcast
back.
feeds. Yeah, we've got a great show lined up for you this week where we talk about Call of Duty coming to Switch, a price increase for the Xbox games, and the Game Awards. All that and much, much more on this week's XPass.
Again, for audio feeds, we do hand signals. Mainly for ourselves and for fun.
Yeah, for shits and giggles.
Yeah. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications switched on so you're kept in the loop of all of our great content here over at Helix Cloud Games, such as Talking the PS, where we did a very good job of breaking down the PlayStation side of what happened at the Game Awards. So if there's something in this show that you're expecting to be here and it's not, wait till tomorrow, we'll probably talk about it. We have CloudQuest every single Friday. We break down the cloud gaming news. And then once a topical discussion. We're getting close to 100 episodes and I still can't pitch that show properly.
It's an odd one.
But it's out on Friday. You can get early access for members. Our live streams where last week Chris and I played a bit of Battlefield. Then we streamed the Game Awards. Did it go on for a very long time? Did Chris declare his undying love for ponchos? You have to watch out the entire stream to find out.
Yeah, it's buried somewhere in there,
Yeah.
like the 4-hour 25 mark or something.
Yeah. So, before we get into it, guys, what have you been playing? Start with you, Rob.
Well, with work the way it is around Black Friday and Christmas, like my gaming time has been very limited. So we talk on Talking to PS where I've jumped back into Shadow of War, which again I'm enjoying as much as the first time I played it. I forgot how good that game actually is. But for the purpose of this show, I've also been playing a little old kind of abandonware game called Caesar 4, which is like a city builder set in like Roman times, and it's super simple. Like the kind of elements of it are a bit dated, so it's super easy to game and like kind of exploit, and I'm just having a bit of fun on that in between kind of massive shifts of work really. So yeah. That's me.
You've been putting in the extra hours at work. That's why you haven't made the last few shows.
Oh god, yeah, like I have a week to go until I break up, kind of until the second week of January, and holy shit, am I looking forward to it. That's
Don't blame you.
yeah, but no, I'll be glad to get back into the mix of things on our shows.
Yeah. What about yourself, Chris?
Not much gaming, similar to Rob. Works. Life gets in the way, as they say. I did check out a little bit of Disney Dreamlight Valley because the Toy Story expansion's out now. So I want to go see what it was like being shrunken down and hanging out in, I think it's Bonnie's bedroom. It's not Andy's bedroom that you go to from Toy Story 3. But either way, yeah, you do some missions with like Woody? Woody and Buzz, I should say, in fact. And aside from that, just a little bit more time on Lost in Random, which I think I mentioned on last week's show as well. Nice little fun game. And I still have Tunic sat there ready to go on my Xbox dashboard, which was, again, voted for Independent Indie Game of the Year. Didn't win. Lost out to Stray. Shout out to all those cat lovers out there. But in terms of it, it's on my dock ready to play. So I'm hoping to have a bit more freedom as we also wind down towards Christmas to get out there and explore some other things. But I had a fun time playing Battlefield on Thursday, Rich. I feel like we got our feet grounded a little bit more in understanding what we do, and I felt like I had a bit more control over just the gameplay mechanics all around, and I knew what I was doing in the world. Plus, we had a better squad this week, to be fair. Which
and your PC didn't explode.
And yeah, my internet didn't shit the bed. So that all things said, yeah, I'm having a good bit of fun playing a variety of things as it stands.
That's good.
How about yourself?
Again, not much gaming time because of a massive hangover yesterday. So any gaming on Saturday was just It was a bit of Pokemon, but even that wasn't a lot. And Friday night, I was out with work for my work's Christmas party. But today, I actually jumped into Chained Echoes, one of our Game Pass games for this month.
Chained Echoes.
What do you think? What's the initial?
If you like SNES era JRPGs, I think you really like it. The movement is it's like a lot smoother than games of that era though, because it's like properly like you can move in any direction, and it's quite fast paced actually, and the battle system's quite interesting. I was getting into it, to be honest. It's like I was watching the time. I was like, I'm gonna have to end this first look because there is a first look coming. I'm gonna have to end this first look at some point, but I still want to keep playing.
That's the good sign of a first 50 minutes to an hour of a game, right? That it gets its hooks in you and you go,
yeah, it's like,
ooh.
I was thinking I'll just do half an hour. It's like, okay, this is now going to be like an hour. And it's like, no, I have to end the first look now because we do have other shows to record today. But yeah,
we wouldn't have had to push for these shows if someone wasn't that hungover that we couldn't actually record an hour originally.
No, I'm not the fuck up this week. Okay, I didn't get too drunk for once. Okay, it was all on Richie.
I didn't get too drunk. I got too hungover. It's different. I was a good level of drunk. I was a bad level of hungover.
You know the best part about this is we say all that, and then we're actively making plans for next weekend to do something.
Yeah,
and that will inevitably end with us being sat here in a week's time going, we were all suffering. Whichever day we end up picking.
Should we try and get a few shows recorded on the Friday?
It would make sense, but we'll see. We'll see how the coins land.
The most important thing is there's like a 5 to 6 day period where we can make fun of Richie without being hypocrites.
Yeah,
so that's true. Yeah, we thought it was dead.
You know, once in a while, I think you are entitled to a good hangover. Like
you are. In fact,
I think it was overdue.
I actually have a clip at which I'll send. I don't know whether you want to add it into the show here or not, Richie, but there is an actual clip of me calling you on the phone while me and Rob are sat down to record. And it's just the dial tone, but it's me. Rob's going like, you should probably record this, and I'm like, oh, I am. Just hoping you would answer the phone in like this horrid state, going, ugh.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's probably playing right about now.
He's not gonna be at work, is he?
No, it's gonna be one of those where it was a late night.
We should record this.
I am.
To the EE voicemail. I'm sorry,
Okay.
the person you called is not available.
It looks like Richie's unavailable. He's not recovered from his night out, and he's no longer with us. Rest in peace, man of many pixels.
Okay, Chris, would you like to
now he forgets to actually edit that into the show. Now there's just this weird, awkward silence where it's like, shit.
Yeah.
But
would you like Richie? Would you like Would you like to introduce us to
the excellently, exuberantly, excavatedly, exposedly, aka the news.
Lee. Not much news this week.
No, quiet one.
No.
Should we just sack it off now? Might as well. Yeah.
Should we go for a drink, Richie?
No, I'm good. I've been fine all day today, but biggest news of the week, the Game Awards. So, as I mentioned already, if we don't talk about something that happened at the Game Awards, it's probably because we talked about it tomorrow on Talking to PS. So go listen to Talking to PS tomorrow to find out all impressions of the games that we don't talk about today. So, you did a good job of rounding up the actual winners of the Game Awards and Talking to PS, so I'm not going to go dig into there because I don't want to double up on things and waste people's time when, again, Talking to PS tomorrow. Go watch that show.
We can pick out some Xbox favourites, though.
Was there any?
Like Xbox inclined favourites, then. We'll go for the third party, because that's what Xbox seem to lean on heavily at the moment.
Like, the thing is, God of War pretty much cleaned up what Elden Ring didn't. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't a lot, really, of Xbox stuff up for things. I think Tunic, as you mentioned, was up for Best Indie Game, but that's third party. Stray technically is on Xbox as well.
I mean,
I'm
this is
looking
definitely like the Ragnarok / Elden Ring show, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the award element of it, and to be honest, even the trailer element of it, there wasn't that much like distinctly. This is an Xbox thing.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about this show, and actually, if you go listen to, I want to say it was the Unlocked podcast, IGN's Xbox podcast Unlocked with Ryan McCaffrey as the host. They actually broke down the Game Awards, and what Microsoft needs to do to get in there. Because as you said, it was Elden Ring and Ragnarok cleaning up shop, and then I think every prior year to that, if we go back to the inception of the Game Awards, so back to 2014, guys, winner in 2014, Dragon Age Inquisition, and that was up against Bayonetta 2, Dark Souls 2, Hearthstone, and Shadow of Mordor. Shout out to that, because as Rob said, he's playing Shadow of War at the moment. 2015, Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, cleaning shop. That was up against Bloodborne, Fallout 4, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Super Mario Maker. So again, if you're thinking with our Xbox hats on here, nothing to show there. 2016, Overwatch, Doom, Inside, Titanfall 2, and Uncharted 4 were up for Game of the Year. Overwatch snagged that one. 2017, Breath of the Wild, up against Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, PUBG, Super Mario Odyssey. 2018, God of War, cleaning house, winning Game of the Year against Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Celeste, Marvel Spider-Man, Monster Hunter World, and Red Dead 2. 2019, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Pip the winner, against Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Smash Bros. Ultimate, and The Outer Worlds. 2020, Last of Us Part 2 won against Animal Crossing, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy 12 Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, and Hades. Last year, of course, It Takes Two took home the gong against Deathloop, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village, and then this year, Elden Ring, of course, cleaning up shop against Plague Tale Requiem, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Meaning, since the Game Awards full-on inception, with Jeff Keighley taking over the reins from, I think, the VGAs they were called beforehand. So since 2014, how many of those, 50 titles I just listed were Xbox Studios? And that doesn't include the Bethesda ones, because I know there's people out there going, well, actually, Chris, Microsoft owned. It's like, not them, they didn't. So don't give me that.
Basically, Obsidian is now owned by Xbox, but it wasn't at the time of Outer Worlds.
So
and
basically,
you've got some
all
games,
of those,
like one of the ones that jumped out at me as well was Persona 5 in there, is now on Xbox, but that is now on Xbox. That's a new development, so it wasn't at the time. That was a
it really speaks to their strategy, right?
Yeah.
Of Xbox compared to PlayStation. I don't think it's any more apparent the stark difference between what each company is focusing on than looking at that list of games you said then. It's not a great look.
No.
It's an interesting one, and I think Psychonauts 2 last year got some terrific reviews and responses and stuff, and that was last year. So again, this is kind of where I guess the frustrations from Xbox players have been like, oh, it's going to be our year next year. And then it feels like they've been saying that since the inception of the Xbox One. And I guess as people who are quite new to the ecosystem, I'm still kind of feel like I'm looking from the outside in. I'm over here with my PS5, eating good, looking at this list. I'm like, oh, fuck, that was a good year. Oh, shit, that was a good year as well. Mm-hmm. And it's always like just off against each other, but there's that depth of I guess it also comes down to Game of the Year. What does that fall into? Sports games never going to get Forza 5 was it? Yeah, last year could have won Game of the Year. It did in fact. I think got IGN's Game of the Year as a racing game, which is a huge testament. But it's never in this conversation. And is that something that Microsoft need to fix? Is it something they're looking at? Because I guess looking back at the years, you've got Fallout 4, so I guess the next Fallout game could be in with a shout. Now they own that. Doom's in there. Doom Eternal's in there. They could be in with a shout going forward. So they are making moves. Outer Worlds, that's now owned by them. So
that's where
I think we're in the right direction.
Over the Xbox One generation, they started off very rocky, and with Game Pass coming in the last third of the generation, they've really turned the corner. But they turned the corner in terms of the service they're offering, not necessarily in terms of the first party titles they're bringing out. But in the last 3 years that we've been doing podcasting, we've covered a lot of Microsoft news on Sounds of Stadia and now on XPass and a bit on Talking the PS about Microsoft basically kickstarting this industry consolidation with the Bethesda deal. So they are actively buying these studios that have had games up for Game of the Year, or within like things like Best Narrative and like some of the more like what's the word I'm looking for? The more prestigious like game awards, in not just the game awards, but in other like showcases and stuff. So like they've got Bethesda now, Activision Blizzard may or may not happen. We'll talk a bit about that in a bit. They've got Obsidian. They're starting to bring in these studios where they might in the next few years have a genuine Game of the Year contender. Starfield is one where I think no one will be surprised if it's in the mix for next year.
Absolutely.
But I just don't think it's like them purchases, they just haven't borne fruit yet.
Yeah, and again, it does kind of go back to Microsoft traditionally have been the kind of the kings of the shooter, with like Halo always being a big thing, and they've always leaned heavily into that. And now, funny enough, owning Bethesda, they have like, even just looking back, last year Deathloop was in the running. That would have been one of their games if they'd have owned it, but it's still yet to bear fruit, and I think that's why there's a lot of frustrations coming out this week of the lack of zero presence. They have Starfield, they have Hellblade in the pipeline, they have all of these studios working on stuff, the Outer Worlds too, and they showed nothing off at a 3.5 hour conference. Phil Spencer was there in neither front row. Like the Xbox himself was sat there watching his competition basically sing their praises with an orchestra and lights and glitz and glamour, and they couldn't have brought anything. Like how deafened to the industry you're part of do you need to be to not bring anything? Yeah. Not even a trailer. They couldn't even sprinkle in something for Starfield, pull together something to go, oh, remember us? We've got a banger year ahead of us. This is the time where I think if they do an Xbox showcase that's speaking to the Xbox audience, the Game Awards is everyone watching it from the industry. So if you got a Nintendo Switch or you got a PlayStation, this is your platform to go, oh, you know what? That Game Pass deal and stuff sounds great, but if I can get it included, I just feel like it was a missed opportunity to like throw some money at Jeff Keighley and be like, give us a slot for Starfield and we'll show off some gameplay, or more importantly, we'll give you a date, because remember, we don't have a locked in date yet. I don't think, anyway.
Yeah, it feels they've got stuff like
they do
getting produced, but they're not yet ready. PlayStation in a similar vein, actually. We've been like crying out for a while for like a PlayStation showcase. I think we have the same with Xbox. More so with Xbox. This is where we go.
Death Stranding 2, Wolverine, Spider-Man 2. That's 3 things for next year we know about, and they're actively talking about, and then silence. So it's like,
you have to think that a lot of like internal kind of management focus has to be. We'll talk about it in a bit, but kind of elsewhere in the company, right? Like kind of focusing on the kind of the Activision Blizzard kind of mess that's happening at the moment. Like I feel like a lot of kind of internal resources going in that direction, and even like on a strategic level, they might be not wanting to appear as strong as they actually are. Like, and like maybe they're holding some stuff back. Maybe that's just a cope from an Xbox user or something. But you have to think there's, in terms of Game Awards, they've probably got, as crazy as it sounds, a much bigger fish to be frying.
The lawyers are all busy elsewhere at the moment. It's just that poor reflection. It probably just is what's it called, Richie? It's a hangover from all of those years in investment. But if you look back at the total, companies with multiple nominations: Sony Interactive 11 nominations, Nintendo 8, From Software and Bethesda 4, EA and Capcom 3. Everyone else, Naughty Dog, Santa Monica, Guerrilla, etc., 2 nominations. Kojima Productions 2. No Microsoft in any of that list. And I guess they've got Bethesda now, so that's kind of giving them an out. But in terms of like that's 20 plus nominations, not one Microsoft game in there. And it's like, it's rough reading. It is. And like, again,
I can't think of an Xbox exclusive, ignoring PC for now, coming out next year.
Starfield?
You mean Starfield? That we have like, I can Starfield. Beyond that, I can't really.
Well, Hellblade,
that we have dates for.
Senua's Sacrifice sequel is like, they showed it at last year's. I think, they showed it at last year's Game Awards, and I think the biggest thing of all is they revealed the Series X at the Game Awards. So they have like precedents of like bringing their literal hardware reveal to this showcase, and this year was nada. I think if you're a die-hard Xbox fan, and I'm sure lots of our viewers and listeners are, to watch that 3.5 hours and like finish and go like, all I got to see there was the competition singing their own praises and celebrating in a shared success. And I have a Series S, I have a Series X or whatever, I have Game Pass, and I'm looking at it going, what the hell's there for me next year? Like, if I'm not a Starfield fan, if I'm not drawn into the hype of Starfield, what am I like? Game Pass is undoubted value, but what am I to be excited for? Like, I'm more excited for Game Pass next year because it's going to save me money. It's the value that's like really got me
the
hooked.
third party box at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is there to really, really draw me in? I think we're satiated at the moment because of the massive, expansive library that Game Pass offers. But in a year's time, is that going to be enough still, or am I, as an active gamer who's constantly looking for that next thing to play? Has my head been turned again when I'm looking at Spider-Man 2, when I'm looking at Wolverine, when I'm looking at all of the other third-party games? Like, I'll be playing Jedi Survivor on my PS5 because I've got 100%. No inclination to play it on my Xbox because I'm marketed at and pushed towards one platform. So, lots of work to be done. And we're not the only ones who feel that way. I mentioned the Unlocked podcast there at the beginning, but Ryan McCaffrey, who's been like covering Xbox for 20 years, he put out a tweet saying like that was just like terrible for Xbox fans. Like, he said he felt like really let down, and there's loads of other people I think who feel the way. So we don't want to suddenly dive into a negative side, but if this was a Nintendo podcast, we'd be talking about the Mario movie, all the announcements, Bayonetta taking home awards, PlayStation. We've obviously covered it all tomorrow on Talking the PS, and I feel like we get to here and it's like, what news have we got?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it, but I think you are right that the Activision Blizzard deal is really kind of overshadowing everything that's going on with Microsoft at the moment. It's probably got them a bit paralyzed almost in terms of what they can do.
Yeah, because I don't think they ever expected this to happen, right?
Yeah, it's
especially not in this guise as well. Like,
they've got a lot of money on the table.
This year.
Yeah, they've got a lot of money on the table. They don't want to do anything that might jeopardize that. So let's talk a bit about that actually now, because the FTC is suing Microsoft to block its $69 billion takeover. They're not having a good week, are they? Last week.
Yeah, I think it was actually just before the Game Awards. It was like, Microsoft are being sued.
Yeah.
Just like actively, it was like, oh shit. Like, I don't ever know what that really means in terms of like monetary value. Obviously, it won't impact the company or damage them in any real major way. But it does shine a light on just like this deal isn't going through as easy as I think they anticipated when they kind of announced the whole thing. It just seems to be turning more sour by every week that passes by. It's like, ooh, there's more pushback. Ooh, there's some more controversy. Where I think they threw that much money at it, they were just thinking this is going to go through without a hitch. We'll be done by Christmas. And we'll have all these games getting put into production for Game Pass before we know it. And now it's like, maybe not. Maybe not.
Like, all I can think of is that someone in Microsoft's, like, kind of management team, like, some, like, Ron Swanson, like, figure, just going, like, they want to be bought. We want to buy them. Why is this so difficult? God damn it. And just, like...
yeah,
that's all I can imagine.
Yeah.
But
I think Sony's like defiance on this is one of the things that keeps adding new like wrinkles to the deal, like because the FTC is like the United States government's Federal Trade Commission, and they're trying to block this merger. So this is literally the US government now getting involved to actively stop this deal happening.
Yeah, it's no longer just Sony coming in going like, oh, they're going to take away Call of Duty. Well, let's cry about it. It's like actively the government going, this isn't good for consumers. We're going to scrutinize this. And it's not like they're even just like investigating. They're reverse counter-suing Microsoft to stop it. And it's like, okay, you'd like to think the US government has some decent lawyers and understands like if this is like cool to go through or not. And it doesn't look like they're happy with it.
I think the issue is as well, like, the more scrutiny that gets put under this, the more kind of stuff gets unearthed as well. Because I think there's, like, I don't understand, like, the exact specifics of kind of the FTC's remit or compared to, like, the European Commission's kind of thing or whatever. But I think the FTC are raising the point that Microsoft in the past has made assurances that some Bethesda titles would kind of not get pulled from kind of other ecosystems, and I think there's disagreement on whether that's actually happened. The FTC says they've broken it, but then the EU says they haven't, and it's just such a mess.
Well, the reality of what we're talking about.
Pages.
Yeah, the reality of what we're talking about here, this is the biggest deal that's happened in the biggest entertainment industry in the world. And it's a global deal. There's many, many countries, because if one major market says no, the deal's off. I can't see how this deal could go through with, say, the US saying no and the EU saying yes. Do the deal only count in? It's kind of every regulator has to be on board.
Yeah. Are they then splitting assets? Because how could you make Call of Duty, but then it's available on PlayStation in the Europe, but not the you need everyone to be in your camp for this merger to fully go through. Yeah. And it sounds like they're just getting fires popping up left, right, and centre. I mean, reading from the Eurogamer article, reading from Holly Vedova, who's the director of the bureau for the FTC, says Microsoft has already shown that it can and will withhold content from its gaming rivals. Today we seek to stop Microsoft from gaining control over a leading independent game studio and using it to harm competition in multiple dynamic and fast-growing gaming markets. Which is straight up the director of the bureau saying, you've shown that by, I guess, what, Starfield? The Starfield's deal?
Probably the biggest one,
They kind of shot themselves in the foot with that one, haven't they? When Phil Spencer was quite quiet on the early doors saying, oh no, we'll see Fallout, Doom and stuff, and then now Starfield's starting to become their big flagship going forward. They're like, oh no, it's exclusive. Of course, it's freaking exclusive.
The argument is Starfield isn't a legacy title. It's new. It's a new franchise. It's never been on any other platform. So it coming, and Bethesda have done exclusivity deals with Microsoft in the past. I think Oblivion may have originally been Xbox exclusive for console.
It was,
So there's an argument there. Well, Bethesda have done these sort of deals in the past, so you should look at these as independent of each other. Actually, Microsoft can now just put their own point at Sony and go, God of War, they're not giving us that. That's just cleaned up at the Game Awards. So it's a very complicated thing. And there's now a lot of people who are probably not video gamers who have a lot of power to make or break this deal now involved.
Yeah. It's when you start making
comparisons. And they'll be looking at it purely from a business point of view. This is not an entertainment industry. This is just a business merger. Yeah. That's where they'll be looking at it as well.
And that's where the scrutiny, your example just there about God of War, that's when the flip side of that is always they can say, yeah, but that was incubated from Sony. Sony didn't actively go out and spend billions on a studio to then make that game for them. So I guess even though Starfield is a new IP, the studios and developers that made that, if they weren't acquired, they would have been actively making stuff for multiple platforms. So yes, the IP might be new, but the team behind it would have been working for everyone. So from a consumer standpoint, you've taken a development team off the table and now you're gatekeeping them to yourself. Rather than incubate a team and start from scratch in-house, you've actively took a chess piece off the board and you've spent money and then consumers have widely been impacted. And as a federal bureau, that's what they're there to stop.
It's not even you've took a chess piece off the board, you've took part of the board.
Well, yeah, that too.
That's how big this is.
And I'm curious now to think, when Microsoft look back on all this, do you think they think, fuck, why did we go for ZeniMax and Bethesda when we should have just not bothered with that and just went, if they had a choice now to have one or the other, they'd probably go Activision, right? Just that, for the sake of Call of Duty. But I feel the ZeniMax stuff is now, they're starting to trip over their own feet a bit with prior deals that they got through with no problem whatsoever, and now because of that they're able to look back. All these European commissions boards and stuff are able to look back and go,
it might just be this is an accumulation of deals of similar notoriety that people's this might be one of the reasons why Sony protesting so hard. It's hang on a sec, we'll let you have Bethesda, we didn't kick up a fuss there, but now you're taking this and you're taking that and you're taking this. It's come on, guys, leave something for the rest of us.
That's the monopoly. That's the whole point of like the purpose of monopoly. Like, and like whether it's monopoly in a business sense or playing the board game, you know who's won in the game of monopoly because the fucker starts to buy up anything and everyone, and then no matter who else is playing, they do not have enough in the bank or they do not have enough properties to combat the well that starts to become whoever the lead is in that game. And this is what this is here. It's you had Bethesda, you had ZeniMax. And then now you have Call of Duty, and then what happens in 5 years' time when you decide you want Square Enix as well? And then before you know it, from a Monopoly Commissions board, it's too late by then because it's all been greenlit and passed through. And like you said, Richie, there's that much money involved. It's going to turn heads. Like 69 billion, that could help the US government out something crazy with so many problems. And yet it's just being spent on acquiring Activision Blizzard King.
Like, I know you guys aren't Star Trek fans, but for anybody who's listening, I'm just going to say, okay, the line needs to be drawn here, no further. So I do feel bad for Activision and all this though, because like they
get stuck with Bobby Kotick. I feel bad for them.
Like they had like a good get out to kind of revamp their image, like as in like, okay, we are now part of this bigger company, we'll do better. They're not going to get a bigger deal because of that. Like,
and it's kind of a good guy Microsoft thing at the moment as well, with Phil Spencer's leadership and Game Pass and stuff.
So I feel like they're in a bit of a limbo at the moment as well, which I don't feel bad for them. But
no, they're making a lot of money.
Yeah,
you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, but they are in like a bit of a limbo as well.
Well, I've seen this past week loads of people who work at Activision Blizzard like tweeting out about this deal, saying heads of divisions of company from both Microsoft and Activision and Blizzard and King and such, saying we agree with the deal going through and it will benefit us. And it's like you're talking as though you're already owned, and I think that is I think that's starting to highlight a big problem with this deal. And Richie, the story. That's, I guess, part of this. Is
everyone
the
actually
Nintendo
involved
deal.
in the deal wants it to happen. It's people outside of the deal that don't.
But it's like Phil Spencer tweeting out about Nintendo and Call of Duty this year. It's like, dude, you haven't got across the finish line yet. How are you publicly saying we've reached a 10-year commitment deal to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo? It's like, you don't own Call of Duty. No, this should be stuff that's kept behind closed doors. Because like now, is it not like? I just think it's crazy to think he's actively saying like, we're going to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo for 10 years because it's trying to add outside pressure to, when there's like a court case and the jury are not allowed out for a very particular reason because they're influenced by wider media. This is exactly what tweeting out about it, because then that pressure from Nintendo fans, Switch owners, and other parties are now involved in this global lawsuit essentially that he doesn't own Call of Duty. So why is he tweeting out about Call of Duty deals when he doesn't own it?
Because they can sign a deal with like these contingencies. So if this deal goes through, then this Nintendo 10-year commitment will then immediately be activated. So they have this on paper. This is a legal thing between Microsoft and Nintendo. And now Phil Spencer, because he's made this public knowledge, when like he's talking to the FTC or whoever, actually, it's probably not Phil Spencer. It's probably the lawyers talking to the FTC. Can point to that deal and go, look, this is what we've offered Nintendo. Nintendo are one of the three biggest players alongside ourselves and Sony in this industry. We've offered the same deal to PlayStation. They're happy. They're not. Maybe the problem is with them, not with us.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, again, we're touching on like a different story here, but like 10 years isn't a long time in
I mean, if you do Warner Brothers Montreal, that's one game.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so like, and the thing is with this Nintendo deal is like, no one really associates Call of Duty with Nintendo. Call of Duty not going to Nintendo doesn't affect Nintendo really. It does affect PlayStation. So this is one of them. If you know about the industry, you kind of go, well, this is not this. These are not equal. But if you're looking at this purely from a business point of view, you're looking at the three biggest like platform holders in the industry. Yeah. And then Sony just like, well, Sony and Nintendo, like they're almost probably interchangeable unless you actually look into like what the content is and how they interact.
Yeah,
but
I think Call of Duty Ghosts was like the last one on maybe the Wii. That was the actual last entry on there. So there's just so many like avenues to go down this, and like tell you what, the only winner in all this is the lawyers, right? these
God,
fuckers
the
getting
billables
paid,
on that is going to be
yeah,
amazing.
oh my word.
Yeah.
Because the longer it gets dragged out, the longer they're
don't-
relevant and just they're living
I
their
would
best life right now.
assume that Microsoft have their lawyers on retainer, so they
Like
pay them a
in-house,
set
yeah.
amount every year, and no matter how much work or how little work they do, that's how much you get paid.
No, I don't think it will be, because they'll have like
Actually,
They'll
they'll probably
have,
buy
like,
it
billables.
extras. Yeah,
I,
they'll
yeah,
probably have
if,
some on retainer and some just have the because of the complexity. They'll probably have to bring extra in.
if Suits has taught me anything about the legal world, okay, like
Is that
just
if you do a
cash
good
money
job,
every
you can
single
become a
day.
princess.
yeah.
Speaking of legalities, Richie, I believe we're legally obliged to mention the new members to our channel who sponsor the news this week.
Oh
that we are
yeah,
covering.
we did. So you can join the channel as little as 99p, which gives you early access to lots of our shows, such as Ted Wu did, such as Xbox Nation did, such as Hungry Moogle did, and NTP No Time Pete did. Thank you very much. You're all awesome. I skipped over you briefly because I just
Hungover.
with such a I'm hungover, and with such a stacked show, it slipped my mind. Despite it now, no, it's been in bright pink.
A nice shade of pink, like those lawyers' bank accounts.
Oh,
That's the thing.
What did
I don't know,
is
what's
some
a shade of
exclusive?
pink?
Is there some exclusive pink account which is like?
Yeah, pink slips.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The lawyers own this. But this story is just going to go... I think is it due to round up? Is the court case or whatever the hell it is? It's supposed to be like March, April, right? When they put like a definitive line of a decision or something.
I'm going
But
to say August.
I think it's going to get dragged out, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well beyond.
100%. Like, I'm actually getting to the point where I'm starting to think this deal might not actually go through.
Same. As a sidebar to all that though, do we think a 10-year deal with Nintendo opens up the possibility more likely that we see a Game Pass app or an Xbox cloud gaming app feature on a Switch in the future? Because if it's going to run Call of Duty, like Nintendo Switch's offering for cloud is so bad at the moment. I do not want to even see the next Call of Duty try and run on the Switch. So
I don't think it helps
Xbox Cloud
Microsoft.
gaming?
I don't think it helps Microsoft's arguments at all, to be honest, because it's just going, well, you've now put your service elsewhere. That means like you're starting to build even a bigger monopoly. Now Nintendo fans are like getting involved in Microsoft stuff. They need to start.
Nintendo come in and counter sue them now for something as well. Like, we might have made this 10-year deal, but you're also eating into our...
They almost need to like kind of prove that after this deal they're not going to expand. We're not going to push to get expand. We're not going to take more of the pie anytime soon. This is it. This is like kind of, we'll get this done. Then we're going to we're just going to start making some games and not worry about buying more things and just let someone else have a chance.
It's such a weird, like, I don't want for this to dominate the show, but that's what a business is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, a business is supposed to like kind of capture as much market as it can. That's the entire reason a business exists. That's why loads of them do loads of shitty things, because by its nature a business has one goal, and that's to capture a market. So like it just goes against like that base function. It's just
But this is the point of regulators, where the businesses are going to do whatever they can to get as much money, capture as much as the market share, and the regulators are there to make sure everything stays above board, legal and fair, effectively.
yeah, but then you can't have like
You can never have a
rivals kind of using that as a stick to beat the business doing what a business is supposed to do. It's supposed to beat.
Yeah.
It's supposed to beat Sony. That's what's supposed that's what Microsoft needs to do. And then if Sony's like running to mum and dad and saying like, "Oh no, like he's bought all the balls, so we can't play football now."
Yeah, one thing
It's like-
Microsoft can always point back to Sony and go like, look, they're kicking up a fuss, but even without this, they're still so far ahead of us in terms of their market share. Like, is this really, how genuine is this, or is this them just? So it's one of them, just like Microsoft are trying to protect their interests, Sony trying to protect theirs, and then governments are now getting involved because, as I said earlier, it's the biggest deal in the biggest entertainment industry. It's unprecedented, the scale of this and the potential, how much it could change the gaming landscape.
It's certainly capitalism at its absolute best and worst at the same time, which makes me think of communism, Richie, and Russia and Atomic Heart, the game that was at the Game Awards that's coming to Xbox.
Oh, you found one? Where's the Atomic Heart?
I was just trying to pivot to Game Pass games and something that wasn't legal proceedings.
The next thing on the dock that I was going to talk about actually is Microsoft raising the price on new first-party titles from $60 to $70 as part of Microsoft's continued bad week in terms of press.
That's going to be tragic for the 4 games that are going to come out from Microsoft first party.
See, even then, I think we could talk about this for another 40 minutes and we could run them across the coals, rightly so. But let's face it, no one out there is buying a first-party game when it's on Game Pass. Yeah, I have no intention to pay £70 for any Xbox title when it's on Game Pass. And I think everyone who actually cares about it has got Game Pass. So I think it's a non-story. Thanks to Game Pass, this one.
It's almost like a tactic.
Yeah.
It's like, this game's really expensive. Just sign up to the subscription, guys. And then...
Yeah. The higher the box cost goes up, the more value Game Pass becomes. Yeah. Just by nature of it. So
this might become relevant if Microsoft do buy Activision Blizzard, because if part of the deal is that they can't put any Activision Blizzard game onto Game Pass, which is something I could really see Sony pushing for and really becoming the reality to get this deal through, then that's £70 for every single Call of Duty game.
That is a reasonable point to make, Richie. That's quite a good one, because I think Sony, didn't they reveal or leak that they paid money to keep games off Game Pass from a third party standpoint? So again, that's what we've always said about this to go back to that damn deal again. But if Call of Duty in the future comes out and it's £70 on PlayStation but it's free on Game Pass, everyone's going to just go play it on Game Pass. It's going to push so many people towards the Series S or the X or whatever it is in the future. And then that goes back to owning Activision Blizzard, it is creating a kind of a biased monopoly, because people... But then back to what Rob's point is that not just business and capitalism? That's the whole point of it. You've made a better proposition. Mm-hmm. And this is where it just gets totally muddy in the waters. But personally, from a £70, £80, £100, whatever the games go up to, Sony did it what, a year, at the start of this generation? People hated it, people moaned. And the two truths of the matter is, with inflation, video games should be £90 to £100 realistically. Easy. Mm-hmm. But they're not. So we should just stop moaning, and it's an expensive hobby, and if you don't like it, get Game Pass, because everything's on there.
And games are much more complicated to make now. You can't
infinitely.
You can't go back on the standard.
And
you can't kind of make it. It's not possible. These things cost money, more so than a lot of Hollywood movies.
Yeah. I mean, there's online example as well. It's not only do you pay to make a game, you don't just ship it and sit back and watch the money roll in. You've got to actively pay for servers and keep them running for these mass multiplayer online titles that run for years beyond their launch. It isn't free to run them servers, or the staff to keep updating them with patches and new features. And Epic and Fortnite must have a team of 100+ people just working on Fortnite just to keep it up to date. They need paying, they need wages, they need healthcare plans and holiday time allowance and stuff, and sick pay. So it's so different. And I think asking for £70 instead of $60, I think over the last 2-3 decades is more than reasonable.
I think it was inevitable that the price of AAA games would go up. I think it has to go up, because you've seen over the last 10 years, companies try to bring in things like loot boxes and trying other methods of monetization. But the reality is, games are getting more and more complex to make. They need a higher level of production to get them done. Rob, you mentioned, you can't go back on the standard. Anytime a new game revolutionizes that genre, everyone now needs to catch up. Mm-hmm. And that's now the standard. So, and every single game that's brought out is a risk. So if you want companies to actually start taking risks with new IP and not just do the Ubisoft thing where everything starts feeling very, very stale, when everything just feels off a production line because they know Assassin's Creed's just always going to sell, then you kind of unfortunately have to pay it. Yeah. And it sucks, but I think it's just part of the reality. Yeah.
Also, a more general thing on this doesn't really apply to the big public developers, but more so that medium level. Say there's a studio and it needs 3 years to bring out a game. That entire kind of thing is built on debt until that game launches. Debt's much more expensive to have now, than it was for the past kind of 10 years. It's impossible that games
the bigger
can
the
stay at the
game,
same
the
price.
more money you need to like find off publishers or other investors to fund it, which means the more debt and compound interest is a real thing.
Yeah, like the most powerful force on earth is working against the game staying the same price. Like
the more money you have from your last game up front is the more money you have in the bank, the less debt you need to take on in order to get through it.
And I get it sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of swallow it.
It's one of them stories. I think we're all in agreement that this was inevitable. It needed to happen. Sony had already made the first move, and once they did, Microsoft were always going to follow. And to be honest, they almost probably did it during this like Activision Blizzard stuff to kind of like mask it a bit.
Like, what's the bet on how long it takes Nintendo? I'm giving them like 18 to 24 months.
Well, Nintendo is interesting because their games don't seem to depreciate compared to Sony and Microsoft's. Even like physical games, like if you go into like game now and look at like Pokemon Sword and Shield, it's probably still close to like full retail price. Where if you get an equivalent like Sony or Microsoft game from last year, it's probably down to about 30 quid.
See, I think that's something they're trying to change, though, as we lean more towards digital. Like, we looked at, I think it was Sackboy's Big Adventure when it went on PC. Like, I had to look on PlayStation, it was still like $54.99. It's like, unless it's in a sale, it still goes back up to that core entry point price, and I think that's what they're all probably trying to do, right? Like, let's face it, if you haven't got Game Pass, Microsoft want to get as much money out of you for that single sale as they possibly can, because if you're not a Game Pass customer, you're not a subscriber long term, therefore, they need as much out of you up front to get the, like, again, squeeze the most value out of that game development in that sale. But I just think it's a world that we have to accept. And just like Phil Spencer said, like, the reality is, like, Game Pass will probably go up next year as well, and loads of people will moan then, but it'll probably go up from what is it now, like £10 a month? It'll probably go up to like 12, 13, 14, but everything's gone up in the last few years. So it's like the video games industry is not immune to inflation. Just like your bread, butter and milk that you buy every week. It's
in the end of the day,
that's the world right now.
Incredibly talented creative people, they need paying.
Yeah.
And if you want gamers, if you want to attract the best people to the industry, you need to pay them a wage that makes it look so they can sustain themselves.
Yeah, we've seen every industry cope with that right now. Like, if you're losing staff as a business, like, you have to do something to change that. And paying a higher wage than the industry standard is one of those things. And especially out there now, it's so like aggressive for recruitment. Like, there's all these studios and startups, and there's even a few stories in the rest of the show today about like companies splitting off, making their own studio, and then they pilfer about half the studio that they've just left from, and it creates this vacuum of recruitment. That is the industry. But yeah, it's expensive. But
I mean, as a final point on it, just from my like I always like try and measure entertainment in like a pounds per hour kind of perspective. If you go to the cinema now, it's like £10 a ticket. Like, if you go like to anywhere that's not View, like for 2 hours of entertainment, like a game can give you like 30, 40, upwards to 100 hours.
Hundreds and hundreds, yeah.
Like, value in that way is still very high.
Chris, you've just rolled credits on God of War. You got the platinum. How long?
45 hours.
45 hours.
46. Yeah.
All totaled.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking about £2 an hour, really there, and but then it's not just quantity; it's quality as well.
Yeah, and I would much rather do that than watch like several movies or TV shows or read a book or all that. And yet, they're all set prices, but it's just crazy. It's just crazy, isn't it? Should we talk about some games?
Yeah, should we talk about
Game Pass to round out?
Oh, talk about Game Pass. Super Animal Royale. No, that's the other one. Party Animals.
Party Animals. Yeah, Party Animals at the Game Awards. Looks fantastic. It was one of those where as soon as we saw it, it looks like, if you've ever played Gang Beasts before or Human Fall Flat, it's those kind of like Play-Doh wacky mechanics of like people, like you kind of control every limb independently. And yeah, Party Animals is just one of those games. However, there's loads of animals. Even in the trailer, the kind of the comedy of it all was like, you can be a fox, you can be a corgi, you can be an elephant, you can do this, and you basically just fight it out in these cool looking arenas, and it just looks like zany fun that we will 100% be doing on a stream, because it just looks so fun. I
believe it was actually confirmed to come to Game Pass, wasn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was in one of the few things Microsoft showed off was Samsung Gaming and Game Pass were like a unison advertisement that I think ran about 10 times throughout the other Game Awards, and like every time an advert popped up, there was a new game that dropped in there. And I think Party Animals, like we were over the moon with it when the trailer showed, right in the pre-show, I think it was. And then about 3 hours later, we saw an advert for Game Pass that was like, oh, that Party Animals game is in there. Sweet. That means we can play it day one for free.
I think we said, like, oh, if this comes to Game Pass, we're definitely playing it on stream. And then, like, yes, it's coming.
It's coming, exactly.
There was something about it. It just looks fun.
It does, absolutely. Like, again, Gang Beasts is so fun as well. It's just nonsensical chaos with your mates. And this looks exactly like that, but you can be a corgi or a cat or a dog or a fox or a duck instead.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah. So, Chris, you mentioned Atomic Heart earlier. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
I only mentioned Atomic Heart because it was to do with Russia, and I was trying to segue from capitalism to communism to back to video games.
There's going to be so many bot spam on this video now.
Hey, if it helps us with the algorithm, I'll go for it. But Atomic Heart, they showed off a trailer. It looks great. It's like a first-person shooter that looks like it's doing like a Wolfenstein ulterior history. Except for it's more sci-fi tinged in Soviet Russia, but like the tech from the trailer, the fighting stuff, it just looks like some fun combination between Wolfenstein meets Metro Exodus, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, this is one where I was looking at it like this almost has some BioShock vibes. Mm-hmm. I know, like, the new BioShock game. It's just the way that combination of being a first-person shooter with like the crazy like powers and stuff you can get involved. But
I get some like Matrix vibes as well from like the kind of like the spider bot things. They kind of look like the machines like in the present world. Yeah. So I get kind of like Matrixy vibes from it as well.
Yeah.
And even better, Richie, Atomic Heart, Game Pass day one.
Is it? Awesome.
Yeah. So that was probably one. I think that was what I was trying to do when we were like so deep in the capitalist conversation.
Yeah, like
I looked at like the rest of the show notes and I was like, I'm sure from the Game Awards there was at least 3 things that were confirmed for Game Pass, but I couldn't remember what they were. Yeah, Party Animals was one, Atomic Heart's the other, and I think there's another one somewhere buried in there.
Also, when you're looking at the comment section of like the Game Awards replay, which I kind of like skimmed through, like you just see so many people saying, "Oh, cool, yeah, I'll check this out on GP or whatever." Like it's such like
it's a phrase.
It makes
people use now.
It's like I'll Game Pass it. Yeah,
Game
it's like
Pass
such
is
a
one of
good
them
thing.
things when you're not sure, you're not fully sold on something. It makes it easy to give it a go, which I think can be to really genuinely be to be for great for some games, especially when there's a lot of games of similar style coming out. Like things might get lost in the mix. Where if one's on Game Pass, like I'll give this one a go.
Yeah, it's just really good.
Absolutely. To pivot away to another, I found the other Game Pass game, in case we didn't know. It was Replaced as well. So that was the Sad Cat Studio, the Belarusian-based one. So when all the stuff kicked off in Ukraine, they had to delay release. But that was the one, Richie, we loved at the beginning, which was the kind of 2.5D retro cyberpunk game. That just looked amazing. That's set to come out 2023 on Game Pass as well. So that's 3 games that I probably would have looked at but not really invested in. Whereas because it's on Game Pass, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to check that out and play it. And hopefully one of the 3 of them will get their hooks in me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the trailer will be up right now. And I remember watching it. It did look awesome.
It was like somewhere between like if Celeste met Cyberpunk. It just looks stunning. Like every bit they show, the music, the art style, the fight mechanics. It just looks something so different, and I've never seen it in 2.5D before.
I was trying to remember who the developer was. I remember it was CodeSync. I think that's one of the things that jumped out to us. But
they were the publisher, I think. Yeah, Sad Cat Studios are making it. The publisher's CodeSync, who are up the road from us in Sunderland.
Yes, shout out CodeSync. But moving on, Rob, have you ever played Diablo before?
Yeah, I played Diablo. Will have been 2, I think. Diablo 2 I played.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it? Looking forward to Diablo 4 because we got a new trailer.
I kind of fell off the franchise on the 3rd one just because of the bit of a botch launch that kind of it went through.
Like the real money auction house and stuff like that.
Yeah, like we were talking to PS about kind of the the games that suffered because of kind of controversy around loot trailers and kind of like loot boxes and kind of things like that. And I think Diablo kind of fell into that one for me. So whilst I really liked the franchise way back when, I think I'm still a bit too burned and cautious about it as a whole to invest into it. But that could change if kind of they take a good step and a positive one and reception's good on release. But I'm not planning to play this unless it defies expectations, so to speak.
See, I've played bits of Diablo 1 and 2, and I did roll credits in Diablo 3. But things like the real money auction house and stuff, that never bothered me because I always found it a weird thing for the games. Like, because my approach to this is, this Diablo, this is the single player experience. That's how I always looked at the game. Is like, and so once I beat the last boss, I just left that game and just never really went back to, apart from when I've re-rolled other characters. And it's like, but I get like, in hindsight, a lot of people with these games, you roll credits and then you do up the difficulty and you go again and you get better loot, and it's that constant grind for better loot. And it's like, but I have no interest in doing that. Like, what else am I gaining at some point? Yeah, you know, when with looter shooters, my always thing with them is like, things like Destiny, I can enjoy Destiny, but at some point it's just bigger numbers for the sake of bigger numbers.
Yeah,
like,
I get it. And
that was always the thing with me for Diablo 3. So, like, the real money auction house, I didn't care about because it's not a feature I'm ever going to interact with.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that does kind of annoy me a little bit is you have to pre-order to play the beta as far as I've been reading. That I don't like. But let's see what kind of comes out of it. I'm not committed to it, and I probably won't play it, but if it kind of there's a gem that comes out of it, then I'll probably jump back into Diablo.
Yeah. Diablo's one of them ones for me when I look at the cinematics and go, God, that looks fun, that looks awesome, and then you see the real gameplay, it's like, that's nothing like the cinematic, what the actual cinematics are. Like, the game does not correlate to the CGI cutscenes in any way, shape, or form. It goes to like isometric top-down thingy, and you click it. It's like, that's not what I was sold on.
I mean, that's the nature of what like Diablo is. I think like Diablo, you could play literally with a mouse, not even a keyboard. Mm-hmm. You could just, I think from the original ones, it is that like simplistic of a game. So it's like, I think it's one of them games where I think nowadays most games like God of War doesn't need CGI cutscenes. You can just do that all in engine and it looks fantastic. Mm-hmm. Diablo, because of the nature of how the gameplay is, CGI cutscenes do help. Yeah,
you can't really do a pure play gameplay trailer for Diablo because it would just sell nothing.
Yeah. So moving on now, I'm not sure. Is there any particular ones you want to talk about for the last like maybe 5 minutes or so?
We've got to address Hades. I think Hades 2, because that was like a big one for the Game Awards. I know me and you haven't played it, Rich. I don't know if you checked out Hades, Rob, but that was one of the ones that, again, Game of the Year winning Hades. People absolutely over the moon. Super Giant Games smashed it out of the park with that one. And this is the first time they've actually done a sequel to a game. So traditionally in the past, when they've made all their other entries, they've just like made an absolute banger. I think Pyre was their last one before this, before Hades, sorry. And they always just come up with something new. That was like kind of their thing. They drop an absolute killer game and then just go and do it. It's a kind of a bit like From Software in that way, like the From Software of indie teams where they just drop a banger, everyone loves it over the moon, and then the next release is, it's something completely different, but it's also a banger, and then they kind of go on from there and there. And this is the first time they've, I guess, gone back to the well and went, no, you loved Hades so much, Game of the Year, like, we're doing a sequel. And I've seen so many people across like all the podcasts I listen to just be like flipping out over the moon for this. Trailer looked great, and it's one of them where one day I will check it out and go, this is what everyone was talking about. This is I get it, I understand it, but the roguelike dungeon crawler thing kind of scares me off a little bit because it's not my thing. Loads of hype, and I don't think we can ignore this. I'm sure there's plenty of people who are watching along who are like, I cannot wait for Hades 2. I'm so hyped, so got to acknowledge it.
I think it's one of them games where they've probably, when they finished making it, like there's still a lot for us to tell, like story-wise in here. So it's just probably why they went. Even though it's like not usually their thing to go back to it, it's like, let's go back to it. We have more stuff we want to do with this franchise. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Have you played Hades, Rob?
I haven't actually. No, it's again, it was one of those things that just kind of I noticed it after it released, and then after it kind of got the kind of reception it did, but just too many other things get in the way. This is the problem with games now. There's like
It's too much.
There's such a volume, especially like our age as well, where we have to literally pick and choose our battles that we want to enter into.
And every game is determined to be like 100-hour experience to keep you locked in. Well, I'm sometimes like, I'm starting to appreciate now smaller games.
Yeah, me too.
I don't need these games that I do want to drop 100 hours into, but there's something to be said for a 20-hour game.
Yeah, I'm getting into like a really bad habit at the moment where like I'm super stressed at work and things like that. So I'm like, right, I need some guaranteed enjoyable time. And the guaranteed enjoyable time comes from games I've already played.
You don't want to learn something new. You just want to go to something that you know.
Comfort food.
Yeah. So I've been reverting back to games where it's like Red Alert 2, Yuri's Revenge, because I know that game inside and out. Like all the old city sim builders and things like that, Shadow of War, like all these amazing games that are coming out, and I'm just like, nah, I'll get to you. I'm gonna.
It's exactly the same reason why in my house about once or twice a year we go back to just watching Friends on repeat, because it's like it's that comfort food. I know what I'm gonna get. I can digest it in bite-sized amounts. If I have to suddenly stop watching it at any given moment, it doesn't matter, because I know every episode like the back of my hand. Just like that game, like you've got that set expectation, and like you said, there's only so much time in the day and in life, and you only have so much brain capacity for learning new things. So it's like that's why things like Hades and stuff I look at and go, yeah, it looks fucking awesome. But if I was 18 and had no real commitments or like life to plan out other than what the next day brings, like I could stay up till 4 a.m. smashing out demons in hell. But for now, I've got work in the morning and other responsibilities. So
I'm in that kind of thing. As much as I'm loving God of War, Ragnarok, I've been playing a lot more Pokemon because it is that kind of comfort food. Despite this being a new game, it is still a Pokemon game, and that is something I can just very easy drop an hour into. Yeah. But again, as you mentioned, that it's one of these things like you watching Friends, I can just put it down and walk away. At any point, no matter where I am in the story, as long as I'm back at a Pokemon Center or somewhere sensible, I can just go put it down, and then next time I go, I can pick up straight from where I left off. You don't have that thing where if you haven't played for a game, it takes you maybe 10-15 minutes to get your muscle memory going. Yeah, like I've had that a few times with God of War. I can just jump straight in. I know what's going on in the game. Like I can just go, okay, there's the waypoint. That's where I left myself. I'll head over there.
You'd probably get around to a lot more if you didn't write off entire days of your weekend being hungover as well.
Yeah, that would help. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. Sorry, this is completely off topic, and I just remembered about it now. Okay, just when you mentioned Pokemon, and it's rocked my weekend more so than you not turning up when we were supposed to film, Richie. Right, but I always thought that the potions in Pokemon were a spray bottle. Like, they're not.
Wait, so what are they? Are they an injection thing?
No, it's a potion bubbling over. Like the icon.
No, surely not.
Unless I've been faked out by the internet.
You might have been faked out because
25 things you'd never know what happened in Pokemon.
No, I've just googled Pokemon potion. It looks like a spray bottle. Like,
yeah, me too.
Wait. There's another one.
I'm looking at Bulbapedia.
Right. In stock on Amazon is the Pokemon Potion trading card from the trading card games.
Wait.
And it's clearly a spray bottle.
Oh, no. I can see. I mean,
never mind.
I've got one. No, Rob, I've got one that is a tweet. So, again, this is...
Yeah, I think this is the one that duped me.
And it shows it's like a purple bottle that I guess it does look like a pixelated
spray. When it's very pixelated, and then I can see how it looks like a bottle spraying over. But you can see
there is a 3D rendition of it that does look like goop coming out of it, but this is just a screenshot of a tweet.
Yeah, everyone Richard just cut this part out. Actually, like this is terrible.
Rob's just
I've been duped by the internet, so
he's definitely clicked a BuzzFeed 25 things you didn't know that happened in Pokemon.
Never mind.
Well, I think you should keep it in, Richie.
No.
Just to get Rob back for all those hangover jokes he's threw at you this podcast.
It was you do the hangover jokes, Marcel.
Well, I didn't just fuck up and make this big declaration of you'll never guess what brain-shattering thing. But you know Pokemon, 30 years old now? Guess what? I'm going to reveal this secret. Like you,
Yeah, no one
you
ever knew
actively
before.
cut off conversation, leaned forward in your seat, and shouted into the camera.
The dumb thing is now I remember that like the Pokemon trading card game had such a clear spray bottle.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that spray cure
You know
will
what?
be.
If anyone's 1 hour
paracetamol.
into this podcast, they deserve that moment, Rob. So sorry, it's staying in.
Also, Richie can't be asked to edit an hour into a
That
show.
too,
For
that
that
too.
such a
It's
niche
like-
moment.
It's like 20 to 7 on Sunday evening. We haven't even recorded CloudQuest yet, so.
No. And Richie wants another drink now, so he's back on
Yeah.
it.
But that's all we have time for this week. If you've liked the video, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications switched on. If you've got a topic that you want us to discuss or you just want to hang out with some awesome people, we have a Discord server. The link is in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. My name's been Richie.
I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
Or
It's
have
a-
you been a
it's a-
bottle that's foaming over
Shut
at the
up.
side?
We'll see you in the clouds. Bye.
Bye.